Good day everyone, I am LJ Alillo and I am the reporter for today. And our topic for today is all about understanding the painting tools. Painting tools, presets, and options. Adobe Photoshop offers painting and editing tools for image color. The brush and pencil tools function like traditional drawing tools, applying color with brush strokes. The eraser, blur, and smudge tools allow for modifying existing colors in the image. You can customize color application and select from preset brush tips in the option bar for each painting tools. Brush and tool presets. In Adobe Photoshop, you can save brush option as presets for quick access to frequently used characteristics. There are sample brush presets available and you can modify them to create new effects. You can also download original brush presets from the web. The brush preset picker in the option bar allows you to choose preset and temporarily adjust the size and hardness of a brush. Additionally, you can save tool preset to store customized brush tip characteristic along with option bar setting like opacity, flow, and color. For more information on tool preset, refer to the Create Use Tool Presets Guide. Brush tip options. Along with settings in the option bar, brush tip option control how color is applied. You can apply color gradually with soft edges, with large brush strokes, with various brush dynamics, with different blending properties, and with brushes of different shapes. You can apply a texture with your brush strokes to simulate painting on canvas or art papers. You can also simulate spraying paint with an airbrush. You use the brush settings panel to set brush tip options. See brush settings panel overview. If you work with a drawing tablet, you can control how color is applied using pen pressure, angle, rotation, or a stylus wheel. Use set option for drawing tablets in the brush settings panel and option bar. Paint with the brush tool or pencil tool. The brush tool and the pencil tool paint the current foreground color on an image. The brush tool creates soft strokes of color. The pencil tool creates hard edges lines. Note, the rotation tool rotates the canvas, which can facilitate easier painting. See use the rotate view tool. First, choose a foreground color or see choose color in the toolbox. Second, select the brush tool or pencil tool. Third, choose a brush from the brushes panel. See select a preset brush. Set tool for option for mode, opacity, and so on in the option bar. Do fifth, do one or more of the following. Click and drag in the image to paint. To draw a straight line, click a starting point in the image, then hold down Shift and click an ending point. When using the brush tool as an airbrush, hold down the mouse button without dragging to build up color. Selecting a cursor preference. With this release, we've added a direct preference that allow you to easily set the boldness of your brush outlines to your liking in the cursor preference panel. You can choose from the options: thin, normal, bold, and extra bold. When you adjust this setting, your preference change goes into effect immediately. No need to restart Photoshop. The painting tools have three possible cursors: the standard cursors or the icon from the toolbox, a crosshair, and a cursor that matches the size and shape of the currently selected brush tip. First, choose Edit, Preferences Cursors, or the Windows, or Photoshop Preferences Cursors, or Mac OS. Second, select the desired cursors in both the painting cursors area and the other cursors area. The sample cursors change to reflect your choices. For a brush tip cursors, choose a size and whether to include a crosshair in the cursors. Third, normal brush tip, restrict the cursor size to areas of the brush stroke that have 50% or more opacity. 4. Full-size brush tip sizes the cursor to the entire area affected by the brush stroke. For soft brushes, this produces a larger cursor size than the normal setting to include the areas of the brush stroke with lighter opacity. Note, to combine different types of cursors, select Show Crosshair in brush tip or show only crosshair while painting. Or for the pen and brush tools, press the caps lock to toggle between the standard cursor and the crosshair. Painting tools options. The following in the option bar. Option available vary with each tool. Mode. Set the method for blending the color you paint with the underlying existing pixels. Available modes change with the currently selected tool. Paint modes are similar to layer blending modes. See blending modes. Opacity. Set the transparency of color you apply. As you paint over an area, the opacity does not exceed the set level no matter how many times you move the pointer over the area until you release the mouse button. If you stroke over the area again, you apply additional color equivalent to the set opacity. Opacity of 100% is of opaque flow. Set the rate of which color is applied as you move the pointer over an area. As you paint over an area while holding down the mouse button, the amount of color builds up based on the flow rate up to the opacity setting. For example, if you set the opacity to 33% and the flow to 33%, each time you move over an area, its color moves 33% toward the brush color. The total will not exceed 33% opacity unless you release the mouse button and stroke over the area again. Note, press a single number key to set a tool's opacity in multiples of 10% or pressing 1 sets into the 10%, pressing 0 set into 100%. Press 2 number keys to set a specific opacity. To set flow, press shift and number keys. Airbrush simulates painting with an airbrush. As you move the pointer over an area, paint builds up as you hold down the mouse button. Brush hardness, opacity, and flow option controls how fast and how much the paint is applied. Click the button to turn on or off this option. Auto erase, pencil tool only. Paint the background color over areas containing the foreground color. Select the foreground color you want to erase and background color you want to change to, or the C auto erase with the pencil tool. Stroke smoothing. Photoshop performs intelligent smoothing on your brush stroke. Simply enter a value from 0 to 100 for smoothing in the option bar when you're working with one of the following tools: brush, pencil, mixer brush, or eraser. A value of 0 is the same as legacy smoothing in earlier version of Photoshop. Higher values apply increasing amounts of intelligent smoothing to your strokes. Stroke smoothing works in several modes. Clicking the gear icon to enable one or more of the following modes. Full string mode. Full string mode. Painting only when the string is stopped. Cursor movements within the smoothing radius leave to mark. Stroke catch up allows the paint to continue catching up with your cursor while you pause the stroke. Disabling this mode stop paint application as soon as the cursor movement stop. And here the sample video. The next is catch up on stroke end. Completes the stroke from the last paint position to the point where you release the mouse or the stylus control. And here is the example video. Adjust for zoom. Prevents jittery stroke by adjusting smoothing. Decreases smoothing when you zoom in the document. Increase smoothing when you zoom out. And here are the example pictures of adjust for zoom. The next is using and understanding the patch tool. Learn how to replace a selected area with pixels from another part of your image. First, select the patch tool or the J from the toolbar. If you can find the patch tool, click the spot healing brush tool to show the other related tools and then select the patch tool. Second, in the tool option bar, choose normal as the patch option and select either source or destination. Third, with the patch tool selected, draw a selection border over an area on your image that you want to replace. Fourth, to patch the source, drag your selection to an area that contains matching detail to cover the part of the image you want to remove. To patch the destination, drag the selection to the part of your image where you want to copy and select pixels. Next, create and modify brush tip. Brush settings panel overview. The brush settings panel lets you modify existing brushes and designs new custom brushes. The brush settings panel contains the brush tip options that determine how paint is applied to an image. The brush strokes preview at the bottom of the panel shows how paint strokes look with the current brushes options. Brush settings panel left and brushes panel right. A. Lock or unlock. B. Select brush tip. C. Brush stroke preview. D. Brushes panel. Next, display the brush panel and brush options. First, choose window to brush settings or select a painting, erasing, toning, or focus tool and click the panel button on the left side of the option bar. Second, select the option set on the left side of the panel. The available option for the set appear on the right side of the panel. Note, click the checkbox to the left of the option set to enable or disable the options without viewing them. Import brushes and brush packs. You can import a wide variety of free and purchase brushes. For example, Kyle's Photoshop brush packs into Photoshop. Follow these steps. First, in the brushes panel, from the flyout menu, choose Get More Brushes. Alternatively, right-click a brush listed in the brushes panel and select Get More Brushes from the contextual menu. Second, download a brush pack. For example, download Kyle's Mega Pack. Third, with Photoshop, running double-click the download AVR file. The brushes you added are now displayed in the brushes panel. Note, you can also the you can also use the import brushes option in the brushes panel flyout menu to locate the download AVR file and open it. Once, once you do so, the downloaded brushes are added to the brush panel. Create a brush tip from an image. First, using any selection tool, select the image area you want to use as a custom brush. The brush shape can be up to 2500 pixels by 2500 pixels in size. When painting, you can adjust the hardness of sample brushes. To create a brush with sharp edges, set feather to 0 pixels. To create brush with soft edges, increase the feather setting. Note, if you select a color image, the brush tip image is converted to grayscale. Any layer mask applied to the image doesn't affect the definition of the brush tips. Second, choose Edit to define brush presets. Third, name the brush and click OK. Create a brush and set painting options. First, select a painting, erasing, toning, or focus tool. Then, choose Window to Brush Settings. Second, in the Brush Settings panel, select a brush tip shape or click Brush Preset to choose an existing preset. Third, select brush tip shapes on the left side and set options. Fourth, to set other option for the brush, see the following topics. The first topics is add dynamic elements to brushes. Second, determine the scattering in a stroke. Third, create texture brushes. Fourth, determining how a brush changes dynamically. And fifth, draw or paint with a graphics tablet. 5. To lock brush tips, shape attributes, or retaining them if you select another brush preset. Click the unlock icon to unlock the tip. Click the lock icon. To unlock the tip, click the lock icon. 6. To save the brush for use later, choose new brush presets from the brush panel menu. Note, to save your new brush permanently or distribute it to other users, you must save the brush as part of a set of brushes. Choose Save Brushes from the Brush Presets panel menu and then save to a new set of overwrite an existing set. If you preset if you're if you reset or replace the brushes in the brush presets panel without saving it as set, you could lose your new brush. Next, standard brush tip shape options. For standard brush tips, you can set the following option in the brush setting panel. Size controls the size of the brush. Enter a value in pixels or drag the slider. Use sample size resets the brush to its original diameter. The option is available only if the brush tip shape was created by sampling pixel in an image. Flip X change the direction of a brush tip on its x-axis. Brush tip is in its default position. B flip X selected, C flip X, and flip Y selected. Flip Y changes the direction of a brush tip on its y-axis. Ang example is itong nasa baba, yung flipping a brush tip on its y-axis. A. Brush tip is in its default position. B. Flip Y selected. See flip Y and flip X selected. Angle specifies the angle by which an elliptical or sampled brush long axis is rotated from horizontal. Type a value in degrees or drag the horizontal axis in the preview box. And the example is ito pong nasa baba na picture. Yung angle brushes create a chiseled stroke. Roundness specify the ratio between the brush's short and long axis. Enter a percentage value or drag the point in the preview box. A value of 100% indicates a circular brush on circular brush. A value of 0% indicates a linear brush and intermediate values indicate elliptical brushes. Hardness controls the size of the brush hard center. Type a number or use the slider to enter a value that is a percentage of the brush diameter. You can change the hardness of sampled brushes. And yung picture po sa baba, yun po yung example, yung brush stroke with different hardness values. Next, spacing control the distance between the brush marks in a stroke. To change the spacing, type a number or use the slider to enter a value that is a percentage of the brush diameter. When this option is deselected, the speed of the cursor determines the spacing. Ang example po yung nasa baba, yung increasing the spacing makes the brush skip. Note, while using a preset brush, press the key to decrease the brush width, press the key to increase the width. For hard round, soft round, and calligraphic brushes, press Shift plus to decrease the brush hardness, press Shift plus to increase the brush hardness. Next, Bristol tip shape options. Bristol tips let you specify precise bristle characteristics, creating highly realistic, natural-looking strokes. Set the following brush tip shape option in the brush panel. Shape determines the overall arrangement of bristles. Bristles. Control overall bristles density. Length. Change bristle length. Thickness control. The width of individual bristles. Stiffness. Control bristles flexibility. At low setting, brush shape deforms easily. Note, to vary stroke creation when using a mouse, adjust the stiffness settings. Spacing. Control the distance between the brush marks in a stroke. To change the spacing, type a number or use the slider to specify a percentage of the brush diameter. When this option is deselected, the speed of cursor determines the spacing. Next, angle. When painting with a mouse, determines the brush tip angle. Brush preview. Shows brush tip that reflects changes to settings above, as well as current pressure and stroke angle. Erodible tip options. Erodible tip brushes behave similar to pencils and crayons and wear down naturally as you draw. You can see the amount of wear with the leave brush tip preview to the upper left of the image. Next, size. Controls the size of the brush. Enter a value in pixel or drag the slider. Softness. Control the rate of wear. Enter a value in percentage or drag the slider. Next, shape. Controls the shape of the tip. Choose from a variety of tip options. Sharpen tip. Returns the tip to the original sharpness. Spacing. Control the distance between the brush marks in a stroke. To change the spacing, type a number or use the slider to specify a percentage of the brush diameter. When this option is deselected, the speed of the cursor determines the spacing. Brush preview shows brush tip that reflects changes to setting above as well as current pressure and stroke angle. Next, in airbrush tip options. Airbrush tips replicate spray scan with a 3D conical spray. With the stylus, you can alter the spread of sprayed stroke by changing pen pressure. Size. Control the size of the brush. Enter a value in pixel or drag the slider. Next, hardness. Control the size of the brush hard center. Distortion. Control the distortion to apply to the spray of paint. Next, granua, granularity controls how grainy the paint drops look. Spatter size. Control the size of the paint droplets. Spatter amount. Controls the number of paint droplets. Spacing. Control the distance between the droplets. If this option is deselected, the speed of the cursor determines the spacing. Brush preview. Show brush tip that reflects changes to settings above as well as current pressure and stroke angle. Brush pose options. Brush pose options let you achieve stylus-like effects and let you control the angle and position of the brush. Tilt X determines the tilt angle and brush from left to right. Tilt Y determines the tilt angle of the brush from front to back. Rotation determines the rotation angle of the bristles. Pressure determines the pressure of the brush applies on the canvas. Enable override option to maintain a static brush pose. Other brush options. First is noise. Adds additionally randoms to individual brush tips. This option is most effective when applied to soft brush tips or the brush tips that contain gray values. Wet edges causes paint to build up along the edges of the brush stroke, creating a watercolor effect. Airbrush or build-up applies gradual tones to an image, simulating traditional airbrush techniques. The airbrush option is the brush panel corresponds to the airbrush options in the option bar. Smoothing procedure smoother curves in brush stroke. This option is most effective when you are painting quickly with a stylus. However, it may produce a slight lag time in stroke rendering. Protects texture applies the same pattern and scale to all brush presets that have a texture. Select this option to simulate consistent canvas textures when painting with multiple textured brush tips. Brush scattering. Brush scattering determines the number and placement of marks in a stroke. And example picture po yung nasa baba, yung brush strokes without scattering or left and with scattering right. Scattering and control. Scatter and control specifies how brush marks are distributed in a stroke. When both axes is selected, brush marks are distributed in a radial direction. When both axes is deselected, brush marks are distributed perpendicular to the stroke path. To specify the maximum percentage of scattering, enter a value. To specify how you want to control the scattering variance of brush marks, choose an option from the Control pop-up menu. Off. Specify no control over the scattering variance of brush marks. Fade. Fades the scattering of brush marks from maximum scattering to no scattering in the specified number of steps. Pen pressure, pen tilt. The stylus wheel rotation varies the scattering of brush marks based on the pen pressure, pen tilt position on the pen thumb wheel, or rotation of the pen. Count. Specify the number of the brush marks applied at each spacing interval. Note, if you increase the count without increasing the spacing or scattering values, painting performance may decrease. count, jitter, and control. It specifies how the number of brush marks varies for each spacing interval. To specify the maximum percentage of brush marks, control the count variance of brush marks. Choose an option from the control pop-up menu. Off. Specify no control over the count variance of brush marks. Fade. Fades the number of brush marks from the count value to 1 in the specified number of steps. Pen pressure, pen tilt, stylus, wheel rotation varies the number of brush marks based on the pen pressure, pen tilt position of the pen, thumb wheel, or rotation of the pen. Clear brush options. You can clear the options that you change for a brush presets except brush shape settings at once. First, choose clear brush controls from the brush settings panel menu. So, education is the key to unlock the world. It is the passport to freedom by Oprah Winfrey. So, thank you for watching.